Dusk was just setting in as we crested the final ridge and got to prepare to drop our packs. And just as I set mine down, I looked up and saw a pair of eyes staring straight at me. And I widened my view a little bit, and I realized it was a brown bear, just a few feet away, standing equally still, staring at me. 100 thoughts raced through my mind. None of them were fear, just wonder and beauty, and the calm realization that, except for my 5'2" girlfriend, the closest people were 15 miles away. Right as I realized I should be afraid, the bear turned and ran away, so much faster than I could ever run. And so, that was one of my first experiences with backpacking. And this is backpacking, the how and why. I'm going to take you through why people backpack, a bit of the history of backpacking, and how you can get started backpacking if you've never been before. First of all, why adventure? Backpacking, people travel to seek out new ideas and find what values that they feel to be missing in their own modern society. That's from the whole point of backpacking, which is a book I found. Basically what that means is that people feel like they're getting left behind in this fast-paced world that we live in, or they're not being fully fulfilled, so they head out into the woods by themselves or with a group of people and just experience nature. And really, why not? Okay. Nature also has documented curative effects. So this looks like that's got to be rejuvenating. But actually, in a series of psychological studies by Keith C. Russell, they showed that at-risk youths actually benefited from so-called wilderness therapy. And lastly, it gives me a new appreciation for the beauty of everything, the smallness of myself and the largeness of the rest of the world. And I'll save the rest of that for the life philosophy speech. So how to get started? Backpacking can actually be an exercise in minimalism, as Lisa was talking about. All you really need is a sleeping bag and a backpack. And if it's hot enough outside, you don't even need a sleeping bag. And then I guess you don't need a backpack either. So, gearing up. This is a backpack. It's got a rigid frame. Some of them have an external frame on the outside, some of them internal. They're about that big. And they can weigh up to 70 pounds. The biggest one I ever had was 45, and that's like heavy enough for me. But the weight sits right around your hips, so you can walk. Like it feels like you're not. I would say it's harder to carry my school backpack than it is, and that only weighs like 15 pounds, than it is to carry a 45-pound backpack. So just clips it around your hips, and you can walk forever. It feels great. And then there's sleeping bags. This is the most important part, and there's a whole bunch of different types of sleeping bag. But here are the three most common ones. There's the quilt one, which unzips all the way to be a quilt, or stays zipped up to be just like a normal sleeping bag. It's like the standard one people have with their kids usually. And that'll keep you warm if it's about 35 degrees or warmer outside. Then you have this sort of like closer fitting one, where there's not as much dead space and air you have to heat up. So a sleeping bag doesn't actually heat you up. You heat up the sleeping bag, and then it just traps that heat in. But if there's a bunch of extra air, then you have to heat up more air. It's not as warm. And then finally, there's a mummy sleeping bag, which I don't really like. It freaks me out. But they keep you super warm, like 0 degrees or warmer. And you zip up into it, and it goes all the way around your head, and you just kind of lay there like this. And sleeping bags have ratings. So there's like the 3-season sleeping bag. It's like that's 10 degrees to 35 degrees is the rating. Or 10 degrees or lower is the winter sleeping bag, and they make some that go all the way down to sub-zero. And in a 10-degree sleeping bag, it's important to know that you will survive at negative 20. Like that's like the lowest it'll go. There's a comfort rating, which is like 10, which is the coldest you want to be. And then there's a survival rating, which means it'll be unpleasant, you won't sleep at all, but you won't die. So it's comforting to know. And finally, if you're going to go backpacking, you've got to know where to go. Fortunately, we live in California, which is like home of the second most wilderness, second to Alaska, in the country. As you can see, all of this dark area is wilderness, and it's all concentrated pretty much in the California area. Wilderness means that no, like in the national forest, for example, logging can still be done. But in the wilderness, no one is going in and touching anything or, I guess, disturbing. It's exactly the same in the wilderness as it was several hundred years ago, which is really beautiful to appreciate. According to the Outdoor Project, California is actually one of the most traveled to outdoor destinations in the world. So people are coming from all over California to go to Yosemite. We live only 3 hours away. Check it out. Finally, there's food. To me, this is one of the most important parts because you get hungry and you get a little bit cranky and you want to eat. So the common consensus is people say pack light, go hungry, and go fast. But what I say is I pack heavy, I eat well, and I bust my ass. So I carried, to make this is food I cooked after like a 10-mile hike. We got here and it was raining, it was awesome, but I carried like 4 pounds of carrots and onions and stuff up, and that's really, like no one does that. It's ridiculous. You want to get your backpack as light as possible. But you could carry good food and then make a really nice meal, and it was totally worth it. It was delicious. Or there's freeze-dried food, which weighs next to nothing. You just have to boil water and put it in there. And that's really good too. I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit salty, but it's delicious. It's also really expensive, which is unfortunate. It kind of takes away from the whole minimalism and saving money thing. So finally, how to make it happen in SLO. Poly Escapes plans trips relatively frequently. I plan on going with them. Haven't been yet, just got here, but soon. And if you don't want to go with Poly Escapes, you can just go pick up a permit and walk into the woods and come back a few days later. So all of you will get the chance to experience the wilderness and all of its beauty while it's still here. Go adventure. I promise it really will change your life.